Ladies and gentlemen, friends, and everybody out there within the sound of my voice, please lend me your ear as I share with you that beloved story of me and my bin. That's right. Whatever color and size recycling bin you may have that sits in your house, your apartment, or desk, just waiting to be filled, waiting for some concerned, earth-loving human being to contribute to the cause and fill it with stuff that can be recycled. You know, bottles, jars, jugs, tubs, cans, cartons, paper, and of course, cardboard. Well, maybe not these plastic grocery bags. Nah. Think of it this way, America. These bins from across the land cry out, "Fill me with your recyclables." From Massachusetts to Hawaii, from Florida to Alaska, they all cry out, "Fill me." Now you may think, this is a bit over the top, but these bin voices are changing the world. Let me prove it. Introducing the dreaded empty peanut butter jar. Not 20 minutes ago, this very container was emptied by some young kid. And then when that kid was done with it, and much to the astonishment of the proud parents, took this jar and did what every earth-loving kid should do. Just watch this.
Thanks, Barry. We're watching Jeff as he approaches his recycling bin, and he's chosen an empty peanut butter jar. Now, you'll soon notice that he cleaned it out. That's important. But keep in mind, you can still keep those labels and lids on. Here we go. Perfect shot. Well done. Back to you, Barry.
Amazing. Just amazing. I mean, the beauty, the simplicity, and the first step for our friend, the dreaded empty peanut butter jar. Okay, now we've all seen these recycling trucks come around and pick up everybody's empty peanut butter jars and what have you. But then what? Where do these trucks go? Do they just vanish into thin air? Maybe they end up at a top-secret U.S. government facility? Well, probably not. So where then? They go here, to the Springfield MRF, or someplace like it anyway. Now I need to point out that MRF is not a guy's name. MRF, or MRF, stands for Materials Recycling Facility. But it would make a great name for a dog. Here, MRF. Now, for the sake of argument, let's assume our empty peanut butter jar is somewhere in this truck. Trust me, you don't want to go looking for it. When they arrive at the MRF, they have to drive up onto this scale. I mean, this is a huge scale. So the folks inside weigh it, press some buttons, and off the truck goes. Now, around the side of the building is this big open bay area, and that's where they dump the stuff. Now, keep in mind, our empty peanut butter jar is somewhere in the middle of that mess. From there, all this stuff gets shoved onto a conveyor belt, and off it goes. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, what about paper? You know, stuff like cardboard and junk mail. Not a problem. The Springfield MRF has a separate building designed solely for paper recycling. Trucks dump it all in a big open bay where it gets sorted and baled and sent out to make, you guessed it, more paper products. So all that stuff that was dumped off and took that short trip up the belt gets to meet a group of people that separate it all. First stop is where they look for the bad things.
You know, Barry, there's some important stuff here that people need to know. Those things you're talking about, the stuff that shouldn't go in the bin, are things like holiday string lights, and cords, hoses, plastic bags, clothing. These things can jam up our machines. So, Barry, what do we do with that stuff?
That stuff gets tossed, and then the good stuff is divided up into different categories. Let's face it, our dreaded empty peanut butter jar here and a tin can are two very different things, but both can be recycled. They just have to be separated. Then, once they're all divided up, they get smashed into these giant cubes called bales. These things are as big as a person, but weigh a ton. So our little empty peanut butter jar is probably now the size of your thumbnail, all squished somewhere in the middle of that thing. These things are so heavy that forklifts have to pick them up and put them into trucks so they can go somewhere and be made into the same stuff all over again. Or maybe something totally different, like carpets or shampoo bottles. I mean, You'd be surprised. So let's stop and review for a second. Remember, we started with our dreaded empty peanut butter jar here. It's taken to the Springfield MRF, gets weighed, gets dumped, gets separated, gets squished, and gets sent off to some place where they melt them down and make more empty peanut butter jars. It's the circle of life, folks. Well, kinda. It's either that or it sits in a landfill for 1,000 years or gets burned up in some incinerator somewhere. I mean, what a waste.
Barry, before we go, there's a few more points I think we need to go over. Keep in mind, containers and cartons have to be empty and clean. No food, no liquids. You can keep the lids and caps on, and labels are fine, and you don't have to flatten them either. Paper and cardboard must be clean and dry. Again, no food or liquids. And like we said before, no stuff that can get tangled in our machines. Remember, if you have any questions at all, you can always visit springfieldmrf.org or recyclesmartma.org. Barry, wrap us up.
And that's our story, folks. So let me wrap this up by asking you just one question. Where does it all start? You know the answer? It starts with me and my bin. Here, Murph. Here, boy.